Hi, today we will look at implementing Google Maps through Visualforce. We will be using Spring 17 org, and that has locker service enabled. So whatever component that you will take a look at today will work with locker service. Let's take a look at a demo of what this component is, and then we can go into details for this. We have this account open where we have embedded our component on a new tab called Contact Map. The purpose of this is to be able to see all of the contacts associated with the account on a Google map and see where the locations are for those maps. Very simple component. So if we click this tab, then it will load the Google map, and in real time we can see all of the contacts listed on a Google map. This has all the features of Google Maps. It's using Google Apps API to draw this map, and if we click on this we can see the contact name. Now, one thing you might have noticed that we only see two contacts here, but if we look at that, we have three contacts. The contacts that you see on map are Jack Rogers and Jaswinder Singh, but you do not see contact B on the map. That is because Google Map needs mailing. Google Map needs longitude and latitude to be able to draw on the map. And contact B does not have a proper address, and we intentionally did not put a postal code in there. Uh, Salesforce has a new feature, data integration rules, that we ran on this org that went through all of the contacts which have proper postal codes and stored the longitude and latitude for these contacts in fields called mailing longitude and mailing latitude. But for this contact, we decided not to put in the postal code and see what will happen. So because it does not have longitude and latitude at runtime in our component, we filter those because those will not work on Google Map. You can always associate proper postal code. You can put validation rules to make sure that all of the contacts being created have a proper postal code so that it can result in mailing latitude and longitude address if you want to use this feature. That's what we will build. As I mentioned, it's a very simple component. Let's take a quick look at how we did it. All of the source code for this component is available in GitHub. We have at very first Google Map dot page. It's a Visualforce page and very simple. We include a style sheet from developers.google.com. We have an event listener on message, and on load we see that if the load Google Map is set, if it's set, then it means we have received the data to load in Google Map. And then we will dynamically create a script tag with the API key that we used for our Google app, and then this will on load call a function called initMap, and initMap will take care of adding all the markers on the Google. Once this page loads, we are also sending a message to Lightning component that this component has loaded, because for the iframe, Google component has no way to know Lightning component, sorry, has no way to know when the iframe has loaded. So we use this to figure out that Visualforce has loaded, and we can send data to this, because otherwise if we try to send to an iframe that might not have loaded, it's not going to work. Let's quickly take a look at the Apex class. We have two functions, but I'm using get context. So we simply receiving an account ID and getting the name that we will use in the title, and the mailing latitude and longitude from those contacts. As simple as that. Then we have a container component that we will be embedding in App Builder. It has the Force Record ID interface, and it also is available for all page types, and it's global access, and it's using Google Map Controller that we just saw. And we can get a contact or account list if needed. We can change this to work with any of these. The Google Map component that we will see momentarily can work with any object. We just need to send the data in a specific format, so it doesn't care where the data is coming from. When we were testing, we had a default ID, but of course this will be dynamic and will depend on the record where we add this. component. And of course, because I was testing it with demo app.app resource, I needed the attribute, but really when we embed it, we don't even need a record ID attribute if we're using has record ID. Then we have three attributes: map options. We will send the options to map, how much to zoom, where to center. And then the second one is the center, because the Google Map, when we are loading, a required attribute is where to center the map. And in our logic, we just said the first contact, we will use that. And then the map data on where to put the markers and the marker text. And if there are contacts after the OR init is run, then we just simply display the Google Map. If there are no contacts, then we don't display this component. And in our helper, we are and design component, we are restricting that this component be used on the account record type, so that because the whole logic is built for contacts, so we just need a record ID for account type and not others. Of course, you can change it as you wish. Then we have two methods. Like I said, we can build it for account or contact, but we'll ignore the get account list for now, but it's very similar to get contact list. We make a call to Apex, we send it an account ID, which we get from the record ID here. And then on success, we create our data that we will send to component. We create a JSON list of latitude, longitude for center, and then we create a JSON list for latitude, longitude, and the marker text we want to show, only if mailing latitude and mailing longitude fields are not empty. And then we simply do that, and then we set the v.con attribute to a return value, and that's pretty much it. The actual component that we embed the iframe is, it receives all of those components, but the whole thing is it has an iframe where we add the page that we created before. We tell it what host to use for this lightning component host if we need to later on, because we can and should restrict a component, saying if the domain does not match or it's not in the whitelisted, then don't do it. It's for security purposes. And on init, we run this init controller. In the init controller, we just build up our data that we received. We say load Google Map is true, and then send it the data options and center in a JSON format. And we use the window.post message, so we get the content window for the iframe, and then we use the post message library to send the message, which is the JSON format, to this origin. And that's pretty much it. And it works very nicely with Google Map, very nicely with Visualforce. We can use window.postMessage to send data to Visualforce, and Visualforce can use window parent.postMessage to send data back. Again, just to be sure, when we send it to the Lightning component, we use parent because it's in an iframe and it works. That is all. And with that, we just created a component that takes data and then just draws it on Google Map. Thank you.